Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Alexis Shifflett, now Patterson, just got married. I play for the women's sitting volleyball team. I've been playing since 2012. I've been able to travel all over the world to play sitting volleyball. I've been to the Paralympics in 2016 and 2020. Well, 2021.
All right. So Denise, do you want to start?
Okay. I guess my first question that's not even on the list here is where are you living at right now?
We had actually just moved to Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Oklahoma, yeah. We were living in Edmond and now we live in Oklahoma City.
Okay. And then my another question is, how old were you when you got interested in volleyball?
I was 15. They found me playing in a volleyball tournament in high school. And my coach was like, hey, well, not my coach, my assistant coach at the time for the women's team was like, have you heard of the Paralympics, anything like that? And I was like, no, I'm 15 years old. You're a stranger danger kind of thing. It was like, go talk to my mom and dad. And that following weekend, I ended up flying out to Oklahoma because I'm from Minnesota, and that's where they found me.
So what was the recruiting process like? So like they just heard of you and flew to Minnesota to see you play?
No, they had an assistant coach at the time living up in Minnesota. I'm sorry, there's a little glaring. They had an assistant coach at the time who was coaching a high school team up in Minnesota, and she had her own league, and that's how she found me, was through her league of athletes that had been at the same tournament, and that's how they found me. We don't really have a process of how we find, we just kind of come across the athletes and like in their sports or anything like that. So sorry, I'm gonna walk away. Alex is doing things.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how many years have you been playing in the Paralympics?
So this is my 10 year. I will have been on the team for 10 years now, starting in November. So yeah, keep training. I don't really know what the future has in store for me at this moment. We just moved, got married, all the fun things, and other than outside of volleyball. So I'm hoping maybe Paris, but we'll see.
Ooh, is that the next Olympics is in Paris? Ooh,
it'd be a fun one for sure.
And hopefully COVID would be over by then. And so
yeah, that's what we've been dealing with a lot the last 6 months. No country really wants to host right now, with protocols and everything in place. It can just get really hectic and chaotic. So a lot of countries were like, we're gonna pull the plug on our tournaments for this year, and hopefully things die down. But as of right now, we are still going to our tournament in China in May.
Okay.
So can you explain how often the Paralympics are? Are they just like the other Olympics, or what is the schedule?
Yeah. So we are the part of para is to be parallel to Olympics. We are 2 to 3 weeks after the Olympics. So every 4 years is when we'll have our games in the same place as the Olympics were held. It's the same event. It's just for athletes who have a physical disability. So yeah, I think so. We not only do they have a physical disability, we have different sports that cater to different disabilities, if that makes sense.
So for volleyball, what would qualify you to be on the Paralympic team?
For us, we've seen people with like spinal bifida try out for our team. people who are paralyzed from like the waist down. Like anyone can really play if you can compete at the level that we need you to. Typically we find our rosters though to have amputees, arm and leg, to keep up with the sport. We have a game that's called like goal ball, and it's completely blind. Like you're like, and if you aren't legally like all the way blind, they will cover your eyes for you. So if you have to have like a specific amount of blindness to be able to play in that sport. So it's a little bit different, but for us, our only differentiation is between a fully disabled, physically disabled person and a partially. So for it to be considered a minimal, it's compared to my one teammate, her name's Kaleo. She was born with clubfoot and is like missing a bunch of her muscle in her calf. And so she is considered a minimal on our team, and we are only allowed to have 2 per roster.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're comfortable, can you explain a little, so I know that you're an amputee, but I guess everybody else doesn't know that, but can you explain a little bit about your amputation and when was your leg amputated and why?
Yeah. So my parents chose to amputate my leg when I was 9 months old. I was born with fibular hemimelia and another genetic deformity with my thigh, which fibular hemimelia was, I only have my fibula in my right leg, and I was born with like 3 toes. The doctors basically told my mom and dad that the chances of me having like a normal childhood would be very like small, and so that their best option was to amputate. And when they knew immediately when I was born. In some cases, they don't even know till like 2 years old.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so we decided, my parents decided to amputate my leg at 9 months old. And so I never learned how to walk with my real leg. So I never got the opportunity to know any different, which is kind of a plus in my mind. But yeah, and so I have like little legs and then big legs and all that stuff.
So as an infant, did you have maybe not as an infant, but as a toddler, did you have a prosthetic?
I did. It's like maybe a foot long.
Wow.
It's like so small.
Did you keep it?
My parents have all my prosthetics. So
wow.
Yes. And I was very surprised. I was like, they're just sitting in my little closet. And I'm like, that's kind of creepy, Mom. But
I think the little ones would be kind of cute.
Yes, they are cute. I had so many different colored ones growing up. I didn't like now you know that I have a carbon fiber colored leg. It's just black and all that stuff. But when I was younger, I had all the different designs on my leg. I had butterflies, I had Barbie, I had a whale, like orcas. I had fireworks at one point. I in just all the colors I had splatter paint. So
cool.
I had all the fun with it.
Were you able to compete in like the typical kid activities like running and sports with your prosthetic legs?
Yes. So my parents put me in everything. I started out with gymnastics of all things. They put me in gymnastics. And then I quickly found out that it wasn't my thing. I did not like it. It was a lot of work, and I was like, this is for my other sister. So, I did gymnastics, I did dance, I tried basketball. What else did I try? I tried so many things I can't even remember it anymore, but I ended up sticking with softball and volleyball throughout junior high and high school. So yeah, and that's how they found me on the volleyball team. Mm-hmm. I loved softball. I wish I could have played into college, but
so early on, did you feel like you noticed you were a competitive person?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. My dad had the athletic gene in our family, and my dad loved to be like, was super excited to see me want to be in that sports and at least want to do them. They were really scared that I wasn't going to want to be able to do it just because of my leg.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. We've got a lot of questions left here.
Oh, that's okay.
Not a lot, but okay. So what are some challenges that you face in your daily life, or even whenever you were younger?
When I was younger, it was a little bit of, I wouldn't say bullying. Then it would probably be bullying. I look at it now as they're kids. They don't know any better. They don't, at that point in time, I came from a small town. People with disabilities there were very uncommon. So they just didn't know any better. By the time I got to like junior high and high school, that had all like cleared up. I mean, people from other schools weren't very nice, but people from my like area were very kind and very like, they knew me and were very helpful and supportive. And especially when all this started taking off, they've been rooting for me since day one from this whole thing. Like I still go back to my hometown all the time, and they had me be in their high school homecoming parade this year as their grand marshal and all that fun stuff. So
Cool.
they've been very supportive from my younger years. But day-to-day life now, I would say it doesn't hinder me too much. I don't like the medical bills anymore. That was a new one when I turned 18 and I was discharged from Shriners Hospital. And then I became an adult, and alas, have to pay my medical bills now.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Yes, I wasn't expecting them to be that expensive, but they got to be pretty expensive.
So what's your average day like? Not on a day that you're competing now, but what's your regular routine?
So I'm actually still kind of trying to figure that out. I had recently got a full-time job for a home builder in Oklahoma. And before that, I was training every day from 7:30 to about noon every day. And when I got this job, it's a full-time job. So I had to stop doing that training every day. So now I get up in the morning around like 6:30, get ready for work, let my dogs out, go to work. And then in the evening around like 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, I get together with another teammate of mine who isn't full-time training in the mornings either. And we do our own trainings in the late evenings now. And so that can be like 2 hours in the evening, about 3 or 4 times a week now.
You are busy.
Yeah, I was like, I felt bad. I was like, I hope I can make this work.
Well, thank you so much for making
Yeah,
it work,
thank
because
you.
it's very interesting. I hope everybody else enjoys it as much as we are. Talking a little bit about the Olympics and what you experienced in Olympics. What was it like staying in the Olympic Village in both Rio and Tokyo?
They are very different, as you know. One's COVID, one was not. In 2016, the Village it was such a cool experience. And we got to interact with other countries. You got to meet other people from all around the world and see what their life is like in other areas that we don't even know. And they have like the coolest things that you wouldn't even think of. Like they had like a little game room for anyone can go to in the Village. And that's how most of them interacted. They had like an international zone. So they bring in a bunch of things from that area of who's ever hosting, and they bring in their culture and try to people get to see it. And there's a giant cafeteria. So it's like a buffet, so lunch, dinner, breakfast, all that fun stuff. And they were open almost 24/7 while you're there, because athletes have different schedules, trainings, and all that fun stuff. And then this is all still Rio still. And our living conditions were they built a futuristic apartments for the area. So we got to like stay in there for the time being. And afterwards they were turning them into apartments for the citizens in the area. And so we got each room had 2 people in it. So me and a teammate stayed in our own room, but we shared one with a total of 8 girls.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a lot, but it was good. We had so much fun. We created so many memories there. Same, Tokyo had kind of the same setup as that, with as far as it international zone wise, and they had a game room, but it wasn't like it was in Rio. It was everyone stayed in their rooms for the most part. You only really saw anyone unless you were at the cafeteria. It was a little lonely this time. I mean, we made the best with what we could do. We brought a lot of games from home so that we could play during practices or after games or whatever. They had a really cool thing this time too. They had our families write letters to us that we could have while we were there, or that they gave us while we were there. So that was really sweet of them to do.
So was your family and Alex, your husband, was he able to go to the Olympics to watch you play?
No. Yeah, no one was able to go. Not even spectators from Japan weren't allowed to come watch us. It was the first time I'd ever been to that event with no one in the stands. We had sold out our stadium in 2016 for 10,000 people, roughly around. And to have no one there this time it was weird. I mean, we're used to, like, when we do smaller tournaments and things, to not have a whole lot of fans. We'll have fans, but just not as many as like the games itself. But it was weird because on that big of a stage that no one was there. So they tried to Toyota tried to get our families involved somehow. So each athlete got 2 tickets for their family to go to Colorado Springs and be able to watch some of the games all together.
Oh, so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I let my parents do that since there were 2 tickets, and Alex stayed in Oklahoma and watched the games from the TV. So, and they had like a little party on the night of our gold medal match. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Rooting for you from Kansas.
Right. I know. I was like all over. That was the kind of cool part, is like it got to be shown everywhere this time.
Yeah.
And when we were in Rio, it wasn't shown everywhere. We had a bit of a problem with the copyright issue while we were in Rio.
Oh, okay. Let's see. What have we not asked so far? Do you want to ask one?
I'm looking here. Do you have any free time?
This is probably my first free time in about 2.5 weeks.
Oh.
Today is when we got snowed in. So, other than that, I feel like I have no free time.
Okay.
But I also am like, we're literally just in the middle of moving, and we bought a reno house. So that's a new fun project for us.
Mhm.
So, hoping free time starts becoming more available soon.
Right.
And you're done with wedding plans now. So
I am done with wedding plans. All that's done, and now it's the house. And yeah, it's been kind of going. Ariel, you kind of knew about it. We got married. I had the games and trying to buy a house all in a span of 5 months.
Wow.
So
you're stronger than most.
yes, I was gonna say I do actually have both of my medals sitting right here. Yeah, I've got both of them, are my Tokyo ones.
Wow.
Like, this one's the Tokyo one. She's very designed, very pretty and thick. She's the heavier one. And I have my Rio one, which is actually really cool. When you shake my Rio one, like, it has beads in it, and it's for our visually impaired athletes. So it's like another sensory thing that they can have. instead of just like a little object in their hand. So
That is neat.
Nice, that's,
yeah,
wow.
it was very thoughtful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So yeah.
So what were some of your best moments from the Olympics? Like, what are your favorite memories?
Oh my gosh, probably both times scoring game point when we were playing in Tokyo and Rio. It was so crazy. Everyone was talking about the parallels with Tokyo and Rio. We were wearing the same blue jersey. We had lost to China in pool play. And it was, this time around though, was a little bit hectic. Like everyone just came off of 2 years of pandemic. And it was insane. And to know, well, we did differently from China's team. Was China quarantined themselves for a whole year and trained every day except for weekends. And we did not do that, which we were so shocked by of how we ended up on like the podium. So it was just crazy to even think about how we even got to that point this year. So that one was probably the most like bittersweet win of like, and even just to know how we even got to the games this year was insane. With the protocol with COVID, if we had come in contact with someone before we left, we had to go 14 days of no contact with any positive cases. And unfortunately, our teammate tested positive 3 days before we were supposed to leave. And there were 6 of us that came in contact with her. So they made us quarantine for 14 days. And we showed up 2 days before we were supposed to play.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was like of the 6 of us, 4 were starters. So that whole experience was I would say probably the most stressful of my life. I took tests every day. Just to ease my anxiety. I was like, am I going? Oh my gosh. Like I worked 5 years for this, like all to like test, like I hope I like anything to just not test positive really.
So did the girl who tested positive, did she get to go?
And yeah, we actually had 2 teammates test positive before we left.
Oh, that's,
and they both like, yeah, it's so unfortunate and it was so sad. And I wish things would have turned out differently for them. And that's really all we can do about that. But looking forward, we're hoping things kind of start to hopefully level out soon.
yeah.
Let's see.
What is the best piece of advice that you've received from your coaches or mentors?
Don't be afraid to try anything, really. I mean, I was terrified to try sitting volleyball. If I'm being completely honest, in that mindset 10 years ago, having a disability I'd always thought I was normal. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have a fake leg. What? And it took me a lot of my parents convincing me to do sitting volleyball to let me know, like, it's okay. Like, it's not scary. It's still normal. It's not different. I mean, the world may view it as different, but it's not. They were telling me all the time, it's your normal. That's the only difference. So I would like, the best thing that I can say is my parents really keep pushing me to try new things and keep going.
Yeah. And even though you only have one leg, you're still an incredible athlete. It's very
thank you. It's been fun. I'd like to think that things worked out.
Okay. I think we only have time for one more question. So how do you celebrate, or how did you celebrate winning a gold medal? Well, both times.
The first time I was only 20. And so all my teammates were older than 20. So they got to go all celebrate out with all of the other people. And in the moment, at that time, we just I celebrated with another teammate of mine who was also under 20, and we just kind of hung out in our room at that night. Coming back to the States afterwards, I was met with my family. They had a whole like sign up in the house and like everything on the front porch and all that fun stuff. And the first time it was really about being with family and celebrating that. The second time I came back and this time I was over 21. We had champagne in the locker rooms. So we like got to celebrate this time with that. And that was super emotional. Like I said earlier, we were all just like sobbing in the locker room afterwards. Just like, how did we even do this? Like, because we had a rough tournament. And so that was fun. And we kind of like hung out all together afterwards. And I mean, honestly, that night we really actually didn't get a lot of celebrating time because we had to be out of the village within 24 to 48 hours of us finishing our games. So I think this time I stayed up packing all night.
Wow.
And like got a little bit of sleep, made sure everything was clean when I left. And then when I got home, Alex and we went out to dinner. We celebrated. And then I went home for about 2.5 weeks to Minnesota. And that's when my hometown like did a bunch of stuff for me and then all that. So that's kind of how we celebrated. We did a parade. Yeah, very low key this time.
I would argue that a parade is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with us. I really enjoyed it.
No, it's very interesting.
I hope everybody else enjoys watching it too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Any questions, just shoot a text or I can answer anything else if anything comes to mind that you want to know.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you guys. Have a good day.